Shukrana Guruji for inviting us all to your beautiful darbar and blessing us with such a blissful satsang. As you know, we're reading the Holy Shiv Puran at Guruji Ka Ashram every Monday after the Mantra Jap. So if you're interested in participating in the reading, kindly contact Seema Aunty or me. Last week we read chapter 1 and 2 of the Rudra Samhita Sati Khand. In this we read that Narad requested Lord Brahma to tell him about the story of life of Sati. To this Brahma said that once when he was afflicting violence on Sandhya, who was one of the mental daughters of Lord Brahma, he was reproached by Lord Shiva. Now Lord Shiva, when he did that, Brahma was not happy about it, and deluded by Shiva's Maya, he wanted to delude the Lord himself. So he tried all the tricks in the world to delude Lord Shiva, but he could not do that. And finally he sought help from Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu tried to convince him that he should forget about this and he should try to cast off all his envy against Lord Shiva. But Brahma could not do that, and instead he started serving Shakti. When Shakti was pleased, he actually made her become daughter of one of his sons called Daksha, and she was born as Sati in an effort that she could enamor and she could charm Lord Shiva. So Sati started performing great penance, and because of that penance she got married to Rudra. Now they were living happily when but certain animosity came up between Daksha, who was Sati's father, and Rudra. So Daksha, because of his haughtiness, he tried to censure Lord Shiva, and he organized a sacrifice at his residence, and he invited everyone, all the devas, but he did not invite Rudra to that sacrifice. So when Sati got to know about it, Sati was angry, and Sati took permission from Rudra and went to Daksha's place. And there, when she found that everyone was honored, including Brahma and Vishnu, and her husband was not honored, she was very angry, and she cast off her body in front of everyone. So when Shiva got to know that, Shiva was very angry, and he created Veerbhadra. Veerbhadra was the attendant of all the Ganas. He was the leader, and he said that Shiva instructed them to wreak havoc in that sacrifice, and as instructed, Veerbhadra took all the attendants and went to Daksha's house, and he wreaked havoc in the sacrifice. He chastised everyone who was present there. There was a war between all the devas there and Veerbhadra and his attendants. Of course, Veerbhadra won it, and after that, Daksha's head was cut off and put in the sacrificial fire. Then they went back to Rudra. Rudra was upset and angry, and they tried to calm him down, and by telling that if Rudra is angry, then the whole world will be sad. So slowly Rudra calmed down. He became merciful self again. Once he calmed down, he resuscitated Daksha, and Daksha came back to life. Then he renewed this sacrificial fire, and everyone that was present there was duly honored. Now these people then honored Rudra, and everything became alright. Then the fire that arose from Sati's body fell on the mountain, and it was named Jwalamukhi, and it was duly worshipped. And Sati, who died in that, was born again as Parvati, who was the daughter of Himalayas, and later she performed penance and became Shiva's wife. So this was the story of Sati. In the next chapter we read that how Cupid was formed. So after Brahma created his 8 mental sons, he created one more beautiful woman named Sandhya, and she was a charmer, and she could charm even the sages. And after that, Brahma and her sons, they also started having some feelings for her, and once they started having those feelings, another beautiful creature came out of Brahma's mental being that was called Cupid or Kama. And when Brahma and his sons saw this being there, they were charmed and they lost their mental balance, and they were extremely smitten by him. And then this being bowed down in front of Brahma and asked him what his role would be and what he would be doing. So Brahma told him that in his form that he had, with 5 flower arrows, he could actually enamor and charm the whole world. He was capable of enamoring and captivating all men and women, including devas, and nobody would be spared of his charm. Thus he was given the responsibility of carrying on the creation in the world. Today we will read further on this. We will read chapter 3, 4 and 5, which is Kama is first cursed and then blessed, Kama's marriage, and Sandhya's story. Sunita aunty will be reading in English, and Ashwini uncle will be reading in Hindi. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji, Shukrana for granting me this seva. Apologies in advance for any errors. Chapter 3. Kama is cursed but blessed later. Brahma said, then those sages, my sons, Marichi and others who understood my view, gave him suitable names. Daksha and others who understood other facts, on seeing my face, gave him a suitable place and a wife. The Brahmins, Marichi and others, my sons, decided on suitable names for the being and said thus. The sages said, since at your nativity itself you have begun to torment and bedevil our minds and that of Brahma too, you will be famous in the world as Manmat. You will be able to assume any form you wish. Hence, O mind-born God, you will be known as Kama too. There is no one equal to you. Causing elation in others, you will be known as Madan. Since you were haughty even as you were born, you will be Darpaka, and your name Kandarpa will also become popular in the world. The collective power of all devas will not be equal to yours. Therefore, you will have any station as yours, and you will be omnipresent too. Daksha here, the first Prajapati, will give you a suitable wife, O best of men, as you please. This girl of handsome features, born of Brahma's mind, shall become famous in the world as Sandhya. Since she was born when Brahma was deeply contemplating, the woman of lovely features will be famous as Sandhya. She will be as lustrous as the jasmine flower. Brahma said, taking his 5 flower arrows, Kama decided on his future course, remaining invisible in form. His 5 arrows are respectively Harshan, Rochana, Mohana, Shoshana and Maran. Even sages could be deluded and tormented by them. Kama thought like this, I shall make a beginning of my career as assigned by Brahma himself as my eternal task, here itself in the presence of the sages and Brahma. All the sages and Brahma are present here. They shall witness my resolution and performance. Sandhya, who was referred to by Brahma, is also present here. She shall be my mouthpiece. I shall test my power here, then only carry on my work elsewhere. After thinking like this and deciding on his further activity, Kama fitted his flower arrows. Kama, the foremost of archers, stood steady in the posture of a lead. The posture for shooting, the right knee advanced and the left leg retracted. Bent his bow almost into a circle and was ready to shoot. O excellent sage, when the bow was kept ready by him, fragrant winds delighting everyone blew there. The enchanter then charmed Brahma and others, the mental sons, with several sharp flower arrows. O sage, the sages and I were thus enamored, and we felt very great change in our mental feelings. We began to stare at Sandhya frequently, passion depraving our minds. Our lust was heightened. Truly a woman is one who increases passionate feelings. Making all of us thoroughly enchanted thus, he did not stop till all of us lost control over our sense organs. When seeing her, my vital elements became displaced, 49 animal instincts, bhavas, came out of my body. She too began to manifest the instinctive gestures of side glances, pretenses of concealing feelings, etc., as a result of being hit by Kama's arrows when she was being stared at by them. Profusely exhibiting these emotions, the naturally beautiful Sandhya shone brilliantly like the celestial river producing gentle ripples. O sage, on seeing her emotionally excited, I loved her all the more despite the fact that I was the creator and my body was filled with dharmic features. All the sages, Marichi, Atri, Daksha and others, O foremost among Brahmins, attained the state of sensuous excitement. Seeing me as well as Daksha, Marichi and others in a situation and seeing Sandhya engaged in her affairs, Madan continued to concentrate his attention on his activity. The work entrusted to me by Brahma can easily be performed by me, so thought Kama justifiably. On seeing the sinful proclivities of his brothers and father, Dharma remembered Lord Shiva, the Lord Protector of virtue. Mentally meditating on Shiva, the protector of virtue, Dharma, the son of Brahma, eulogized Shiva with different prayers in his state of sorrow. Dharma said, O Mahadev, Lord of Devas, protector of virtues, obeisance be to thee. O Shiva, thou alone art the author of creation, sustenance and dissolution. By virtue of three gunas, Rajas, Sattva and Tamas, thou assumest the form of Brahma at the time of creation, that of Vishnu at the time of sustenance, and that of Rudra at the time of dissolution. Yet, O Lord, thou art devoid of attributes. Thou art Shiva, free from influence of the three gunas, the fourth being. Thou art beyond Prakriti. Thou art expert in various divine sports, yet without attributes and free from deformities and decays. Great Lord, save me from this impassable ocean of sin. My father and my brothers are now sinfully inclined towards me. Brahma said, thus eulogized by Dharma, the great Lord, self-born Shiva came there immediately in order to protect Dharma. Stationed in the ether, Shiva saw me, Brahman, Daksha and others in such a mental state, and so laughed mockingly. O best of sages, in the midst of his intermittent laughter, making all blush with shame, the full emblemed deity spoke these consoling words. Shiva said, Alas, O Brahma, how is it that you were overwhelmed with lustful feelings on seeing your own daughter? This is highly improper for those who walk on the line of the Vedas. Sister, brother's wife and daughter are like one's mother. A sensible man shall never look at them with a reprehensible vision. The conclusion of the path of the Vedas is present in your mouth. O Brahma, how is it that you forgot that under the influence of monetary passion? O four-faced deity Brahma, your mind shall always remain alert in fortitude. How did you undo it for the sake of dalliance in love? How is it that your mental sons, Daksha, Marichi, and others who practice yoga in isolation and see the inner light forever have become enamored of a woman? This Kama is a fool, deficient in sense and ignorant of proper occasion. How is it that he has begun to torment them with excessive power? Fie upon the learning of that person whose wife draws his mind inordinately from steadiness and courage and immerses it in fickle revelries. Brahma said, on hearing these words of Shiva, I, the Lord of the world, perspired profusely in an instant on account of shame. Although the desire to see Sandhya of wishful features still lingered, O sage, I curbed the upset senses, fearing him, Shiva. O excellent Brahman, from the drops of sweat that fell from my body, rose the maidens who did not perform the sacrifices while they were living on earth, who shone like split collyrium, had eyes resembling the full-blown lotus, were meritorious ascetics, and were averse to worldly activities. These were 64,000 in number, O sage, and the maidens called Barhishads, lit, seated on grass, were 86,000. From the drops of sweat that fell from Daksha's body, a splendid woman endowed with good qualities was born. She was of slender body, with symmetrical hips. Her waist was well-shaped. Small curly hairs embellished it. She was soft in body with fine teeth. She had a shining golden complexion. In her body she was perfect. Her face shone like the full moon and full-blown lotus. Her name was Rati. She was capable of captivating even the sages. Excepting Kratu, Vashisht, Pulastya and Angiras, the six viz. Marichi and others successfully curbed their senses and their activities. O excellent sage, the semen virile of the four, Kratu and others, fell on the ground from which other types of manes were born. They were Somapas, Adyapas, Kalins and Havishmantas. They are all termed Kavyavahas also. They are their sons. The Somapas are sons of Kratu, Kalins of Vashisht, Adyapas of Pulastya and Havishmantas of Angiras. O excellent Brahmin, when the mains, Agnishvatas and others were born, they were assigned the task of Kavyavahas, taking oblations and offering among the mains. Sandhya, who thus became the mother of Pitra, served the same purpose as theirs. Since she has been glanced at kindly by Shiva, she became free from defects and devoted herself to virtuous rites. In the meantime, after blessing all the Brahmins and protecting virtue dearly, Shiva vanished suddenly. I, the grandfather of the world, snubbed and put to shame by Shiva's words, turned my anger against Kama with a frowning face and knit eyebrows. O sage, seeing my face and realizing my hint, Kama withdrew his arrows. He was so terribly afraid of Shiva. O sage, then I, the lotus-born, became very furious like the strong blazing fire seeking to consume everything. I, Brahma, then said, after playing the same trick on Shiva, Kama will be consumed in the fire of Shiva's eye and freed of his arrogance. O excellent Brahmin, it was in the presence of mains and the sages of perfect control that I spoke to Kama in this way. On hearing this curse of terrible nature, Rati's husband was frightened. He abandoned his arrows and became visible. O sage, he spoke to me, that is Brahma, and my sons Daksha and others, even as the Pitras and Sandhya stood there listening. By this time his arrogance had disappeared. Kama said, O Brahma, why have I been so terribly cursed by you? O Lord of worlds, I have not committed any sin against you, who are reputed to follow justiciable path. O Brahma, you have assigned me my task. I have only carried it out. Hence this curse is not proper. I have not done anything else. You had said, all of us, I, Vishnu and Shiva, are targets of your arrows. I only tested your statement. I am not guilty in this respect. O Brahma, I being innocent, this conditional curse, O Lord of universe, is very terrible. On hearing his words, I, Brahma, the Lord of the universe, replied to Madan, who had controlled himself, trying to suppress him further. Brahma said, I cursed you because you have aimed at us, this Sandhya who is my daughter and me her father. But now I am free from anger. In this state I tell you, O Kama, do not be under any suspicion. Listen, cast off your fear, be happy. O Kama, he will reduce you to ashes in the fire of his eye, but he will give you another similar body afterwards. When Shiva takes to a wife, he himself will get you another body. After speaking thus to Kama, I, the grandfather of the world, vanished from there, even as the sages, my mental sons, were watching. On hearing these words of mine, Kama and the mental sons of mine became happy and returned quickly to their abodes. Chapter 4, Kama's Marriage. Narada said, O Lord Brahma, O Vishnu's disciple of great intellect, O creator of the world, you have narrated a wonderful story consisting of nectar of Shiva's divine sports. O dear one, what happened thereafter? Please tell me now. I am all attention to a narrative based on Shiva's life. Brahma said, when Shiva had gone back to his place and I, Brahma, had vanished from the scene, Daksha remembered my words and spoke to Kama. Daksha said, O Kama, this girl is born of my body. She is endowed with beauty and good qualities. She fits you admirably. Take her as your wife. This powerful girl shall ever be under your righteous control and shall be your constant companion as long as you wish. Brahma said, saying so, he presented to him the girl born of his sweat after naming her Rati. O Narada, after marrying the beautiful daughter of Daksha, who could enchant even sages, Kama rejoiced much. On seeing his auspicious wife, Rati, Kama was pierced by his own arrows and was overpowered by the pleasure of dalliance. His wife of fair complexion, tremulous side glances and fawn eyes, admirably suited to his love of pleasure, offered him ample sports. On seeing her eyebrows, the doubt arose in the mind of Kama. These two have been fitted to her to excel my bow by Brahma, who wants to undo it. O best of Brahmins, on seeing her rapid roving glances, he did not retain his faith in his arrows in the matter of swift action. Inhaling the naturally sweet fragrance of her steady breath, Kama abandoned his faith in the Malaya breeze. Seeing her face resembling the moon with all characteristic marks, Kama was unable to find any difference between her and the moon. Her pair of breasts resembled the buds of golden lotus, with nipples shining like bees hovering round them. Certainly Kama had set aside and forgotten the string of his flowery bow with tumultuous buzzing hums of bees, because his eyes were riveted to the auspicious necklace with the eyelets of peacock steel suspended over her firm protruding plump breast down to her umbilical part. His eyes, covering the skin with their glances around her deep navel, shone like red plums. That lovely woman of slender waist with a natural golden complexion appeared like a golden platform to Kama. Kama looked at her thighs, lovely like the stump of a plantain, as though they were his javelin. The heels, the tips and sides of her feet were reddish in tinge. With them she looked as the comrade of the Cupid. Her red hands with nails like kimshuk flowers and with well-rounded tapering fingers were very beautiful. Her arms were fine like the lotus stalk. They were glossy and soft. They resembled corals putting forth beams of splendor. Her glossy hair resembled the blue cloud and the fluffy tail of the chamari deer. Thus shone the wife of Kama. Just as Lord Shiva accepted Ganga oozing from the snowy mountains, Kama married her. She carried a discus and lotus in her hand. She had arms fine as the lotus stalk. She had wavelets of her eyebrows. Her side glances rose up and down like gentle tides. She had eyes resembling a blue lotus. The curly locks of hair on her body were like the mossy growth in the river. She shone with her mind expanded like the tree. Her deep navel resembled the deep eddy. Thus shone Rati with her beautiful body. In fact, she appeared to be the abode of beauty itself, like Rama, goddess Lakshmi. She had 12 varieties of ornaments. She was an expert in 16 types of amorous gestures. She was capable of charming the whole world. She illuminated all the 10 quarters. Seeing Rati like this, Kama eagerly accepted her, just as Vishnu accepted Lakshmi, who approached him with love. In his height of joy, the deluded Kama forgot the terrible curse of Brahma, and so he had no occasion to mention about it to Daksha. Great festivities heightening the pleasure of everyone ensued, O dear one. My son Daksha was more delighted than everyone else. He rejoiced. Having reached the acme of happiness, Kama thought all miseries were at an end. Daksha's daughter Rati was highly delighted on getting Kama as her husband. The sweet-voiced Kama rejoiced with her like the cloud at the sunset, mingled with sparkling lightning. Thus Kama took Rati to his chest in his happy delusion like the yogi in his knowledge. Having secured a fine husband, Rati, with face shining like the full moon, shone like Lakshmi having secured Hari. Chapter 5, the story of Sandhya. Suta said, on hearing these words of Brahma, the excellent sage remembered Shiva with a delighted heart and spoke joyfully. Narada said, O Brahma, the fortunate disciple of Vishnu, O intelligent one, you have narrated the wonderful divine sports of the moon-crested Lord. After Kama had married and gone to his residence, when all of you, that is your creator, Daksha, and the mental sons, had all gone to your respective abodes, where did Sandhya, the daughter of Brahma and the mother of Pitra, go? What did she do? Who married her? Please tell me all about it, in particular the account related to Sandhya. Suta said, on hearing these words of his intelligent son, Brahma, who knew the real situation, remembered Shiva and said, Brahma said, O sage, listen to this auspicious story of Sandhya, on hearing which ladies do always become chaste. That Sandhya was my daughter, mentally created by me formerly. She performed a penance, cast off her body, and was reborn as Arundhati. She was born as the intelligent daughter of the excellent sage Medhatiti, performed sacred rites at the bidding of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, and chose as her husband the noble soul Vasishtha of praiseworthy rites. She of auspicious countenance became the foremost of chaste ladies and deserved honor and respect from everyone. Narada said, how did she perform penance? Why and where? How did she cast off her body and become the daughter of Medhatiti? What did the deities Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva command her to do? How did she choose the noble soul Vasishtha of praiseworthy rites as her husband? I am eager to hear all these things. O grandfather, tell me in detail the story of Sandhya precisely. Brahma said, formerly, on seeing Sandhya, my daughter, I cherished a love for her, which, being afraid of Shiva, I forsook. Sandhya's mind too was shaken on being stirred by Kama's arrows. The same had happened with the mind of the noble-souled sages who had so far curbed their minds. She had heard the words of Shiva to me couched in mocking terms. She had realized that her mental aberration in regard to the sages was beyond decency. She had seen the attitude of Kama, culminating in the delusion of the sages, frequently. Hence, Sandhya was excessively distressed with respect to her marriage. O sage, then I cursed Kama. Shiva left the place and I too disappeared. Thus her support was lost. So, O excellent sage, Sandhya became furious. Then my daughter considered all these things and meditated. Meditating on the recent events, she of great fortitude mused what befitted the situation. Sandhya said, seeing me as a lady in the prime of my youth, even at my nativity, my father, prompted by Kama, cherished a lustful desire for me. The minds of the sages, the mental sons, reputed to be pure in mind, on seeing me became lustful, breaking the conventions. My mind too was excessively stirred up by the wicked Kama, as a result of which, on seeing those sages, it too became excessively shaken. Of course, Kama reaped the fruits of his sinful misdeeds, for Brahma became angry and cursed him in the presence of Shiva. I too shall have to reap the fruits of my sin. I have committed a great sin. I wish to have a means for making amends. Directly perceiving that I too had lustful feelings, the brothers and my father had a similar desire. Hence I am the worst sinner. I too had the unconventional lustful feelings on seeing them towards my own father and brothers as towards a husband. I shall perform expiatory rites myself for my sin. Following the Vedic injunctions, I shall consign myself to the fire. But I shall set up the new limits in the world. No person shall be so lustful at the time of birth. For this purpose I shall perform a severe penance. Then I shall establish the new limits, and afterwards I shall abandon this life. No purpose will be served with this body for which love was cherished by my father and brothers. This body cannot be the means for achieving merit, for it was through this body that lustful feelings were generated in my father and brothers. Thinking thus in her mind, Sandhya went to the mountain Chandrabhaga, from which the river Chandrabhaga flows. On coming to know she had gone to the mountain, I, Brahma, told my son Vasishtha, the omniscient, of purified mind, due to penance, who had acquired spiritual knowledge, who was seated near me and who had mastered the Vedas and the Vedangas. O son Vasishtha, approach Sandhya, my daughter of great fortitude. She is desirous of performing a penance. Initiate her duly in the procedure of that. O great sage, formerly seeing you all and me as her lovers and realizing her own lustful feelings, she had blushed. Though not expressed and though not personified, your action then is considered by her as her first death. Now she wishes to put an end to her life. Among those who observe limits and conventions, she wants to lay down a limitation. The chaste lady has gone to the mountain Chandrabhaga for performing the penance. She does not know the procedure of performing a penance. Oh dear, see that she realizes her desire by means of your instructions. O sage, abandon this form of yours, disguise yourself and approach her to demonstrate the mode of penance. You shall assume another form lest she should be embarrassed as before on seeing your natural form and features. O Narada, Vasishtha was thus ordered by me out of pity. The sage too told me, so be it, and approached Sandhya. Vasishtha saw the celestial lake full of Ganas and resembling the Manasa lake. He saw Sandhya too on its bank. With her seated on its bank, the lake full of splendid lotuses appeared like the sky in the dusk, with the moon rising and the stars twinkling. On seeing her there, full of noble feelings, the sage eagerly looked at the lake, called Brihalohita. From the ridges of that big mountain, which appeared like a big fort wall, the river Chandrabhaga rose and flowed towards the southern sea. The sage saw that too. That river breaks the western wing of the Mount Chandrabhaga, even as the Ganga of the mountain Himalaya, and flows towards the sea. Seeing Sandhya on the bank of the lake Brihalohita, on that mountain Chandrabhaga, Vasishtha asked her respectfully. Vasishtha said, O good lady, why have you come to this mountain devoid of men? Whose daughter are you? What is it that you intend to do? I wish to know this if it is not a secret. How is it that your face resembling the full moon is expressionless and inactive? On hearing the words of the noble soul Vasishtha and seeing him blazing like fire, shining like Brahmacharya personified, Sandhya bowed to the sage wearing matted hair and spoke to him respectfully. Sandhya said, O fearless sage, know that the purpose for which I came to this mountain has already been achieved, or rather will be achieved by your very sight. O sage, I came to this mountain devoid of men to perform penance. I am the daughter of Brahma and am known as Sandhya. If it be proper and not inconvenient for you, please instruct me. This is what I expect of you. There is nothing to be kept secret in this. Without knowing the procedure of penance, I have come to this penance grove. Due to this worry, I am perplexed and my heart trembles. On hearing her words, Vasishtha, the most excellent among the knowers of Brahman, well versed in every rite, did not ask anything further. After remembering Shiva, favorably disposed to the devotees, he addressed the lady who had controlled herself and was preparing for the penance. Vasishtha said, He who is the supreme brilliance, he who is the greatest austerity, he who is the worthiest of worship, let that Shiva be meditated upon. Worship him who is the most excellent of all beings, the sole first cause of all worlds and the principal cause of virtue, wealth, love and salvation. O lady, worship Lord Shiva, the Lord of all Devas, with the following mantra. By that certainly you will achieve everything. Om Namah Shankaraya Om. Om obeisance to Shiva Om. With this mantra the penance is pervaded. The whole penance begins with silence. I shall explain it. Listen. The ceremonial bath shall be taken silently. The worship of Shiva shall be performed silently. The food taken in shall solely consist of water in the first and the second Shashtakalas. On the third Shashtakala, you shall observe complete fast without even taking water. This shall continue till the conclusion of the penance. The rites shall be performed at the end of each Shashtakala. This is called the penance of silence. It yields all the benefits of celibate life. O lady, it confers all cherished desires. True, it is certainly true. Thinking thus in your mind, O lady, you meditate on Shiva. If he is pleased, he will confer on you all you wish ere long. Vasishtha then sat and explained to Sandhya the rites of the penance. The sage then vanished from the scene. That concludes the reading in English. Ashwini uncle will read in Hindi. Jai Guruji.
जय गुरु जी। कामदेव के नामों का निर्देश, उसका रति के साथ विवाह तथा कुमारी संध्या का चरित्र, वशिष्ठ मुनि का चंद्रभाग पर्वत पर उसको तपस्या की विधि बताना। ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, मुने, तदनंतर मेरे अभिप्राय को जानने वाले मारीची आदि मेरे पुत्र सभी मुनियों ने उस पुरुष का उचित नाम रखा। दक्ष आदि प्रजापतियों ने उसका मुंह देखते ही परोक्ष के भी सारे वृत्तांत जानकर उसे रहने के लिए स्थान और पत्नी प्रदान की। मेरे पुत्र मारीची आदि द्विजनों उस पुरुष के नाम निश्चित करके उससे यह युक्ति युक्त बात कही। ऋषि बोले, तुम जन्म लेते ही हमारे मन को भी मतने लगे हो, इसलिए लोक में मनमत नाम से विख्यात होगे। मनोभव, तीनों लोकों में तुम इच्छा अनुसार रूप धारण करने वाले हो। तुम्हारे समान सुंदर दूसरा कोई नहीं है, अतः काम रूप होने के कारण तुम काम नाम से भी विख्यात हो। लोगों को मदमत बना देने के कारण तुम्हारा एक नाम मदन होगा। तुम बड़े दर्प से उत्पन्न हुए हो, इसलिए दर्पक कहलाओगे, और सदर्प होने के कारण ही जगत में कंदर्प नाम से भी तुम्हारी ख्याति होगी। समस्त देवताओं का सम्मिलित बल पराक्रम भी तुम्हारे समान नहीं होगा, अतः सभी स्थानों पर तुम्हारा अधिकार होगा और तुम सर्वव्यापी होगे। जो आदि प्रजापति हैं, वे ही ये पुरुषों में श्रेष्ठ दक्ष तुम्हारी इच्छा के अनुरूप पत्नी स्वयं देंगे। वह तुम्हारी कामिनी तुमसे अनुराग रखने वाली होगी। ब्रह्मा जी ने कहा, मुने, तदनंतर मैं वहां से अदृश्य हो गया। इसके बाद दक्ष मेरी बात का स्मरण करके कंदर्प से बोले, कामदेव, मेरे शरीर से उत्पन्न हुई मेरी यह कन्या सुंदर रूप और उत्तम गुणों से सुशोभित है। इसे तुम अपनी पत्नी बनाने के लिए ग्रहण करो। यह गुणों की दृष्टि से सर्वथा तुम्हारे योग्य है। महातेजस्वी मनोभव, यह सदा तुम्हारे साथ रहने वाली और तुम्हारी रुचि के अनुसार चलने वाली होगी। धर्मता, यह सदा तुम्हारे अधीन रहेगी। ऐसा कहकर दक्ष ने अपने शरीर के पसीने से प्रकट हुई उस कन्या का नाम रति रखकर उसे अपने आगे बिठाया और कंदर्प को संकल्प पूर्वक सौंप दिया। नारद दक्ष की वह पुत्री रति बड़ी रमणीय और मुनियों के मन को मोह लेने वाली थी। उसके साथ विवाह करके कामदेव को भी बड़ी प्रसन्नता हुई। अपनी रति नामक सुंदर स्त्री को देखकर उसके हाव भाव आदि से अनुरंजित हो कामदेव मोहित हो गया। तात उस समय बड़ा भारी उत्सव होने लगा, जो सबके सुख को बढ़ाने वाला था। प्रजापति दक्ष इस बात को सोचकर बड़े प्रसन्न थे कि मेरी पुत्री इस विवाह से सुखी है। कामदेव को भी बड़ा सुख मिला, उसके सारे दुख दूर हो गए। दक्ष कन्या रति भी कामदेव को पाकर बहुत प्रसन्न हुई। जैसे संध्या काल में मनोहारिणी विद्युन माला के साथ मेघ शोभा पाता है, उसी प्रकार रति के साथ प्रिय वचन बोलने वाला कामदेव बड़ी शोभा पा रहा था। इस प्रकार रति के प्रति भारी मोह से युक्त रतिपति कामदेव ने उसे उसी तरह अपने हृदय के सिंहासन पर बिठाया जैसे योगी पुरुष योग विद्या को हृदय में धारण करता है। इसी प्रकार पूर्ण चंद्रमुखी रति भी उस श्रेष्ठ पति को पाकर उसी तरह सुशोभित हुई जैसे श्रीहरि को पाकर पूर्ण चंद्रान्ना लक्ष्मी शोभा पाती है। सूत जी कहते हैं, ब्रह्मा जी का यह कथन सुनकर मुनिश्रेष्ठ नारद मन ही मन बड़े प्रसन्न हुए और भगवान शंकर का स्मरण करके हर्षपूर्वक बोले, महाभाग, विष्णु शिष्य, महामते, विधाता, आपने चंद्र मैली शिव की यह अद्भुत लीला कही है। अब मैं यह जानना चाहता हूं कि विवाह के पश्चात जब कामदेव प्रसन्नता पूर्वक अपने स्थान को चला गया, दक्ष भी अपने घर को पधारे तथा आप और आपके मानस पुत्र भी अपने अपने धाम को चले गए, तब पितरों को उत्पन्न करने वाली ब्रह्म कुमारी संध्या कहाँ गई? उसने क्या किया और किस पुरुष के साथ उसका विवाह हुआ? संध्या का यह सब चरित्र विशेष रूप से बताइए। ब्रह्मा जी ने कहा, मुने, संध्या का वह सारा शुभ चरित्र सुनो, जिसे सुनकर समस्त कामनियां सदा के लिए सती साध्वी हो सकती हैं। वह संध्या जो पहले मेरी मानस पुत्री थी, तपस्या करके शरीर को त्याग कर मुनि श्रेष्ठ मेधातिथि की बुद्धिमती पुत्री होकर अरुंधति के नाम से विख्यात हुई। उत्तम व्रत का पालन करके उस देवी ने ब्रह्मा, विष्णु और महेश्वर के कहने से श्रेष्ठ व्रतधारी महात्मा वशिष्ठ को अपना पति चुना। वह सौम्य स्वरूप वाली देवी सबकी वंदनीय और पूजनीय श्रेष्ठ पतिव्रता के रूप में विख्यात हुई। नारद जी ने पूछा, भगवान, संध्या ने कैसे, किस लिए और कहां तप किया? किस प्रकार शरीर त्याग कर वह मेधातिथि की पुत्री हुई? ब्रह्मा, विष्णु और शिव इन तीनों देवताओं के बताए हुए श्रेष्ठ व्रतधारी महात्मा वशिष्ठ को उसने किस तरह अपना पति बनाया। पितामह, यह सब मैं विस्तार के साथ सुनना चाहता हूँ। अरुंधति के इस कौतूहलपूर्ण चरित्र का आप यथार्थ रूप से वर्णन कीजिए। ब्रह्मा जी ने कहा, मुने, संध्या के मन में एक बार सकाम भाव आ गया था, इसलिए वह साध्वी ने यह निश्चय किया कि वैदिक मार्ग के अनुसार मैं अग्नि में अपने इस शरीर की आहुति दे दूंगी। आज से इस भूतल पर कोई भी देहधारी उत्पन्न होते ही काम भाव से युक्त ना हो, इसके लिए मैं कठोर तपस्या करके मर्यादा स्थापित करूंगी। तरुणावस्था से पूर्व किसी पर भी काम का प्रभाव नहीं पड़ेगा, ऐसी सीमा निर्धारित करूंगी। इसके बाद इस जीवन को त्याग दूंगी। मन ही मन ऐसा विचार करके संध्या चंद्रभाग नामक उस श्रेष्ठ पर्वत पर चली गई जहां से चंद्रभागा नदी का पादुभार हुआ है। मन में तपस्या का दृढ़ निश्चय ले संध्या को श्रेष्ठ पर्वत पर गई हुई जान मैंने अपने समीप बैठे हुए वेद वेदांगों के पारंगत विद्वान, सर्वज्ञ, जितात्मा एवं ज्ञान योगी पुत्र वशिष्ठ से कहा, बेटा वशिष्ठ, मनस्विनी संध्या तपस्या की अभिलाषा से चंद्रभाग नामक पर्वत पर गई है। तुम जाओ और उसे विधि पूर्वक दीक्षा दो। तात, वह तपस्या के भाव को नहीं जानती है, इसलिए जिस तरह तुम्हारे यथोचित उपदेश से उसे अभीष्ट लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति हो सके वैसा प्रयत्न करो। नारद, मैंने दयापूर्वक जब वशिष्ठ को इस प्रकार आज्ञा दी, तब वे जो आज्ञा कहकर एक तेजस्वी ब्रह्मचारी के रूप में संध्या के पास गए। चंद्रभाग पर्वत पर एक देव सरोवर है जो जलाशयोचित गुणों से परिपूर्ण है, हो मनो सरोवर के समान शोभा पाता है। वशिष्ठ ने इस सरोवर को देखा और उसके तट पर बैठी हुई संध्या पर भी दृष्टिपात किया। कमलों से प्रकाशित होने वाला वह सरोवर तट पर बैठी हुई संध्या से उपलक्षित हो उसी तरह सुशोभित हो रहा था जैसे प्रदोष काल में उदित हुए चंद्रमा और नक्षत्रों से युक्त आकाश शोभा पाता है। सुंदर भाव वाली संध्या को वहां बैठी देख मुनि ने कौतूहल पूर्वक उस बृहल्लोहित नाम वाले सरोवर को अच्छी तरह देखा। उसी प्रकार भूत पर्वत के शिखर से दक्षिण समुद्र की ओर जाती हुई चंद्रभागा नदी का भी उन्होंने दर्शन किए। जैसे गंगा हिमालय से निकलकर समुद्र की ओर जाती है, उसी प्रकार चंद्रभाग के पश्चिम शिखर का भेदन करके वह नदी समुद्र की ओर जा रही थी। उस चंद्रभाग पर्वत पर बृहल्लोहित सरोवर के किनारे बैठी हुई संध्या को देखकर वशिष्ठ जी ने आदर पूर्वक पूछा। वशिष्ठ जी बोले, भद्रे, तुम इस निरंजन पर्वत पर किस लिए आई हो, किसकी पुत्री हो और तुमने यहाँ क्या करने का विचार किया है? मैं यह सब सुनना चाहता हूँ। यदि छिपाने योग्य बात ना हो तो बताओ। महात्मा वशिष्ठ, यह बात सुनकर संध्या ने उन महात्मा की ओर देखा। वे अपने तेज से प्रज्वलित अग्नि के समान प्रकाशित हो रहे थे। उन्हें देखकर ऐसा जान पड़ता था मानो ब्रह्मचर्य देह धारण करके आ गया हो। वे मस्तक पर जटा धारण किए बड़ी शोभा पा रहे थे। संध्या ने उन तपोधन को आदरपूर्वक प्रणाम करके कहा। संध्या बोली, ब्राह्मण, मैं ब्रह्मा जी की पुत्री हूँ। मेरा नाम संध्या है और मैं तपस्या करने के लिए इस निरंजन पर्वत पर आई हूँ। यदि मुझे उपदेश देना आपको उचित जान पड़े तो आप मुझे तपस्या की विधि बताइए। मैं यही करना चाहती हूँ, दूसरी कोई भी गोपनीय बात नहीं है। मैं तपस्या के भाव को उसके करने को नियम को बिना जाने ही तपोवन में आ गई हूँ, इसलिए चिंता से सूखी जा रही हूँ और मेरा हृदय कांपता है। संध्या की बात सुनकर ब्रह्मवेताओं के श्रेष्ठ वशिष्ठ जी ने, जो स्वयं सारे कार्यों के ज्ञाता थे, उससे दूसरी कोई बात नहीं पूछी। वह मन ही मन तपस्या का निश्चय कर चुकी थी और उसके लिए अत्यंत उधमशील थी। उस समय वशिष्ठ ने मन से भक्त वत्सल भगवान शंकर का स्मरण करके इस प्रकार कहा। वशिष्ठ जी बोले, शुभान्य, जो सबसे महान और उत्कृष्ट तेज हैं, जो उत्तम और महान तप है तथा जो सबके परमाराध्य परमात्मा हैं, उन भगवान शंभु का तुम हृदय में धारण करो। जो अकेले में धर्म, अर्थ, काम और मोक्ष के आदिकरण हैं, उन त्रिलोकी के अधिष्ठाता अद्वितीय पुरुषोत्तम शिव का भजन करो। आगे बताए जाने वाले मंत्र से देवेश्वर शंभु की आराधना करो, उससे तुम्हें सब कुछ मिल जाएगा, इसमें संशय नहीं है। ओम नमः शंकराय ओम, इस मंत्र का निरंतर जाप करते हुए मौन तपस्या आरंभ करो और जो मैं नियम बताता हूं उन्हें सुनो। तुम्हें मौन रहकर ही स्नान करना होगा। मौना लंबन पूर्वक ही महादेव जी की पूजा करनी होगी। प्रथम 2 बार छठे समय में तुम केवल जल का पूर्ण आहार कर सकती हो। तब तीसरी बार छठा समय आए तब केवल उपवास किया करो। इस तरह तपस्या की समाप्ति तक छठे काल में जलाहार एवं उपवास की क्रिया होती रहेगी। देवी, इस प्रकार की जाने वाली मौन तपस्या ब्रह्मचार्य का फल देने वाली तथा संपूर्ण अभीष्ट मनोरथों को पूर्ण करने वाली होती है। यह सत्य है, इसमें संशय नहीं है। अपने चित्त में ऐसा शुभ उद्देश्य लेकर इच्छानुसार शंकर जी का चिंतन करो। वे प्रसन्न होने पर तुम्हें अवश्य ही अभीष्ट फल प्रदान करेंगे। इस तरह संध्या को तपस्या करने की विधि का उपदेश दे मुनिवर वशिष्ठ यथोचित रूप से उससे विदा ले वहीं अंतर्ध्यान हो गए।